Welcome, everybody, to the Soul Path Community Friday class. We're here today to talk about the astrology for September 2025. And I would say, in my mind, this year has flown by, and I chose this picture for today to reflect the principle of as above, so below. And even though we're in some murky territory in the world at this point in time, for us necessarily to continually remember that we are pure divine spirits. We are all one. We are one with nature, one with the sky, one with each other and the animals. And when we start to become nervous, anxious, fearful, discouraged, depressed, it's so important that we come back to the presence of who we are and that we chose to be here at this time to be part of shifting things. I'm just in the middle today of writing another article for Substack where I'm really going to go into this in a little bit more depth, but some of it's going to come up in September's astrology. And we're getting a lot of support from the sky to be connecting into our sense of unconditional love, oneness, and compassion. And make sure your mute is on, and off we go. So here we have the ephemeris for this month that you can always refer back to. And the thing you'll notice about September is the number of planetary changes. That's a lot for 1 month. So there's quite a noticeable energetic shift, okay? Because each planet represents a part of us that has got some job it's doing in order to achieve a certain result, and it does it in the sign that it's in. And when that sign changes, it's like you've got an actor that is just taking on a new role in a new movie, although there's a similarity between the movies, but there will be a difference in how that planet is now going to express itself, which means in the world, which is a lot of what we're talking about first in this presentation. We're talking about how each one of these planets is creating a vibration that we are working with and reflecting a vibration that is happening. And then as we go into the second half of the class where we look at charts, we'll look at what does that mean in your particular chart? What does that mean in your life? And how does it affect things for you? So the first change that we're seeing right on September 1st, right out of the September gate, we have Saturn moving into Pisces, but in its retrograde motion. So Saturn came into Pisces at the end of May and fairly quickly went retrograde. And now it's going back to Pisces. And you may remember also that Neptune came into Aries. Did I say that right? Saturn, let's go back. Saturn came into Aries at the end of May and then went retrograde, and now it's coming back into Pisces. Okay, I want to make sure I was clear. And then Neptune, the Pisces planet, which has been in Pisces since 2011, came into Aries at the end of March. It also retrograded, and it also will come back to Pisces. So something that's building right now as we're coming into September is the fact that for the next couple of months, these two planets that were operating together, and I would say that we can think of it in simple terms as Neptune in Pisces, just infusing us with core spiritual nature, with compassion, creativity, oneness, intuition, spiritual principles that cross into virtually all high-level belief systems. And then Saturn, since 2023, was in Pisces and helping us become more disciplined and serious and diligent about how Pisces operates in our life. And if you have a tendency to any of the Pisces shadows, which we all have some tendency, the Pisces shadows of addiction, dependency, illusion, uh, things not being clear, overwhelm, then Saturn has been a guide and a support to become more mature, more successful, more accomplished around Pisces. And I certainly noticed from the time that Saturn came into Pisces last spring of 2023 that more people were showing up wanting to take the intuitive classes and telling me in readings that they realize they've always kind of had some gift or some sense of things, but it was now time to learn more about it, to get better at it, to be able to trust it. So both Saturn and Neptune this spring moved into their new location, Aries, where they're going to be much more fiery, direct, new ideas, birthing and structuring. But now they're coming back, and we get a chance to reflect and finish. And as you know, when planets are in the 29th degree, the last sign, there is the need, it's almost like in my mind, a final examination. You've been working on this territory. You have integrated and synthesized a lot. And if you've done a good job, it's going to feel amazing and you're going to feel like, "Oh, really got it together." And if you haven't, then you're going to need to do a whole lot of work really quickly. So if you have not been paying attention to the discipline and structure of your spiritual path and your soul-centered connection to creativity, whether it's enjoying the fruits of others or doing your own or both, this fall is the time to do that. So start doing it now, even though Neptune's not in Pisces yet, but it will retrograde back soon and be in Pisces. And then the two of them will move into Aries in the new year and stay there for some years. And also creating a synodic cycle that sort of creates a vibration that we live in for many, many years. So that's all just September 1st. Then September 2nd, Mercury going into Virgo. When Mercury is in Leo, the communications can be bigger, fiery, creative, maybe a little fun or playful. Mercury going into Virgo, things get serious. And if you have a lot of Virgo in your chart, you know what I'm talking about. There is the skillfulness, the detail orientation, the problem solving, maybe the anxiety and the stress. But it is a really big difference to move from mental communication, analysis energies, moving from a big natured, powerful sun sign or fire sign like Leo, and then moving into Virgo, where one becomes detailed and specific and takes care of what needs to be taken care of. And you know that we had a new moon in half a degree of Virgo just recently. We're going to be talking a lot about Virgo because we're coming into eclipse season. We're in Virgo season. The next couple of months are kind of infused with Virgo tasks, Virgo sensibilities. So Mercury into Virgo is going to be an important part of that. And ideally, you're already like making a list and checking it twice. What do you need to get done to organize yourself, to solve the little irritable problems that we all have lurking in our life? Make a list, check it twice, start working away on it because this is an amazing amount of problem-solving energy that is birthing into our field at this point in time. Okay. Uh, and now, then September 6th, we have Uranus going retrograde. So Uranus been in Taurus for 7 years. Now it is moving. It had just moved into Gemini. So we're getting a little taste, a little appetizer of what the next 7 years are like. But now it too is going to move back and let us finish everything we've been learning about the body and the body of Mother Earth. So we've got some fixing and some synthesizing and integration to do here. Okay. Um, then the next day, September 7th, is when we have the lunar eclipse, and we'll talk about that in detail. And remember, an eclipse is a full moon near the lunar nodes. So this will mean the sun is in the sign of Virgo, the moon is in Pisces. We get the completion and the culmination, and the chance to sort of look at our handiwork. Uh, then we have a little bit of a space. We get to September 18th, and Mercury goes into Libra. So can you see how soon that is? I normally calculate when I'm looking at transit charts. I'm calculating that Mercury is spending about 1 day per degree in the sign. So normally I'm thinking on average, subject to retrogrades, and there's slow down and speed up with that. But normally I'm thinking Mercury's moving about, 1 degree per day. And yet here we are in just 2 weeks, and we have uh, moving from one sign to the next. So when Mercury goes into Libra, the mind and communication move into harmony, balance, peacefulness, relationship awareness, relationship concerns. Finding the harmony is the thing to do. Okay. Again, I'm going to ask everybody to just check and make sure your mute is on. I'm hearing some background noise. Thank you. Um, and then we have Venus into Virgo. So Venus right now in Leo, and again, the big picture energy, the expansiveness, the loyalty, the joy of expression, creative expression, the expression of self, the vitality, the sense of self-esteem that we work with in Leo times. And then Virgo, again, like Mercury, getting down to work, being of service, being skillful in relationship. So we'll find ourselves as part of this Virgo that we're doing in general in our life and figuring out what the problems are. We will be looking at that with our Venus energies and how we're relating to people. And there's a discerning quality. What is really working for us? We want to be of service, but we want to be discerning about it, because sometimes service goes into victimization and no ego at all, and giving so much that we become martyred. And this back and forth for this whole month around the Pisces energies of oneness and compassion and spiritual giving, service in the spiritual meditating on world peace way, or the Virgo service where we're very specific and service oriented, in practical ways, in the ways of what we're giving in the real world. And again, as above, so below. We can really think of that with Pisces and Virgo. Then we have the solar eclipse at the end degree of Virgo, and that is a very strong activation in everyone's charts, especially if you have planets in the late degrees of Virgo, and maybe even into the early degrees of Libra. And right after that, Mars goes into Scorpio. Now, in traditional astrology, Mars rules Scorpio, so this gives Mars some power for the next couple of months to accomplish things in a deep, intense, penetrating way. Having just been in Libra, Mars in Libra is not particularly happy, right? It is the opposite of Mars' favorite sign, which is Aries, because Mars wants to do what it wants to do, and it wants to do it now. And in Aries, it can do that. In Libra, it hasn't been able to do that so much. We've had to, be more mediating and negotiating and take our time to find balance. Mars in Scorpio can cut through, can move things forward. So this is going to enhance your problem-solving abilities, the things that you're identifying on your list. Once we get to September 22nd, we have Mars in Scorpio, Mars, emblem of will, desire, action, going for it. It's going to be able to go deep into what is the underlying invisible unconscious issue and transform that and cut through that. And then finally, September 22nd was the equinox, the sun moving into Libra, the sun operating through that balanced harmonious sign. Maybe not the easiest sign for the sun sometimes, but certainly we will feel ourselves in that sense of power and in a way of using our choices to create maybe a little bit more harmony. Now, to go into the lunar eclipse on September 7th, 2:09 p.m. in the East Coast, 15 degrees and 22 minutes of Pisces. So you will see it here. Here is the sun. It's close to the south node. Now, what this does with this full moon is it creates kind of an oppositional, like a reverse nodal return in a way, where the south node is usually telling us what we're letting go of, and we're saying, oh, we're letting go of this Virgo energy for a year and a half, while the north node is in Pisces and the south node is in Virgo. So we're tuning ourselves to where are we overly analytical, anxious, too caught up in the details. Sometimes we get so overwhelmed with Virgo, we don't even clean the closet because our ideal of how we want to make it so perfect is overwhelming. So we're charged with letting go of shadow Virgo during this time and bringing in high quality Pisces, the best of our capacity to be spiritual, compassionate, intuitive, to express oneness. Now we have this full moon lunar eclipse, and it is opposite because when we're looking at a lunar eclipse, we're looking at the sun to show us the direction, the way that we're moving, and the moon to show something about habit patterns and what we're letting go of. So here we're asked to very much focus on the best of Virgo, on the discernment, the problem solving, the skillfulness, the humility, the devotion, and to be cautious about the moon in Pisces tendencies towards sacrifice and martyrdom and overwhelm and, just being, too much going around and around in circles. So what that means is, and probably this is what we're meant to be doing all the time, is finding the best of both signs and, minimizing the shadow of both sides. And to help with the process, we have Mercury in Virgo close by. That's considered a conjunction with the sun. The sun at that degree level of closeness is technically kind of eating up Mercury's energies for its own benefit. But I'll just say, to think about it, to still think about how are you thinking and processing and communicating in a Virgo way while you are also sort of standing there on the summit of the mountain you've been climbing or on a plateau and saying, this is what I've been working on, and this is my relationship with service. And I'm finding the balance between service that is skillful and tangible in the world and service that is just of the energy that I'm carrying, the way I'm holding space, the way that I am compassionate to myself and to those around me. And you can see that Saturn is also in Pisces, and that's too far away to be a true conjunction. If we were looking at this in someone's natal chart and analyzing it from an evolutionary astrology perspective, I would say that Saturn, people in authority, the patriarchy, people who were stern and judging, were sort of the reason that you were held in your Virgo service capacity. But it's not like if Saturn was at 19 degrees of Pisces and was really there, and you could see it as that brick wall of reality of, absolute intensity working against you. It's kind of, it's there, but it doesn't have quite as much power. But it still is beneficial. And with the Pisces planet Neptune there close by and coming back to Pisces, we do have this sense that the Pisces we're building is supported by Saturn and Neptune at this time. We also see another really strong aspect to the full moon and the lunar nodes, and that is Jupiter in Cancer. So we know Jupiter represents our beliefs and philosophies and the way that we're coming into understanding our beliefs. And the world is meant right now with Jupiter in Cancer for a year, June to June, is meant to understand life in terms of home, family, unconditional love, healing, nurturing, nourishment. And this is in a trine sextile to the nodes and the full moon. So this energy of Jupiter is very much worth bringing into your analysis and your assessment in whatever it is you're thinking about based on this eclipse and what this eclipse is moving you toward. Now, remember, eclipses strongly affect planets or angles that they touch within about 3 degrees, maybe 5. But we mostly think of eclipses in terms of conjunctions, maybe the oppositions, and of course, an opposition in a lunar eclipse. But if there's no planets in Virgo or Pisces for you, then the eclipse will be more background noise. It won't have the huge effect that it has when it is conjoined to a planet. So just keep that in mind. But you can also see, well, where is Jupiter in Cancer, and what is being activated for you to go for more? Because that's always Jupiter's message is, how can I expand? How can I see what I wish for more of? Be maybe a little more positive, optimistic, hopeful, and manifest this, bring this in, or ask for it. If Jupiter is in your 7th house in Cancer, even if you have really great, deep relationships, you might still take a moment to consider what could be better, what more could you ask for. And of course, always with that kind of expansion and abundance, we all want to be grateful for what we already have. And that is a major spiritual principle to work with. Saturn is, that's interesting. Venus quincunx. Yes, okay. So a quincunx to the nodes is, it has that quincunx activity where we have to blend in a way that is not possible directly. It's not like we can merge and compromise. It's not like there's flow or even the stress and tension of a square where we have to find a creative solution. But a quincunx, things are unstable. So there's something about Venus in Leo and the desire to relate in a way that is Leo-like, playful, creative, expressive, powerful, that does not quite operate well with the nodes and with the full moon. And you may feel like you're at odds. And you can just think about that. I mean, if we're, working with Virgo and Pisces energy, that's about service and skillfulness and this kind of deep spirituality. Venus in Leo is more worldly. Venus in Leo is definitely, I want to walk into the party and be seen and enjoy myself. So, maybe one moment you'll do that, and then the next moment, you'll be praying and cleansing and eating brown rice and vegetables. So the square, now that I'm, in my mind again, because I was thinking about Saturn, but the square of the ascendant in the sign of Sagittarius is to the full moon and to the lunar nodes. And so if you're on the East Coast, or when we're thinking about how this lunar eclipse affects Washington, D.C., which affects our choices in this country and is affecting the world, then there is something that we can imagine is going on, that has to do with service and compassion and spirituality and losses, that is affecting the way things are moving forward according to belief, truth, and meaning. I could pray for this to be positive and beneficial, and pray for this to be maybe a wake-up call for people who are not feeling compassionate about all the pain and suffering that's going on in our world right now, that maybe there is kind of a new frequency, a little bit more. The Jupiter rules that Sagittarius ascendant, Jupiter in Cancer, in the eighth house can have a lot to do with finances, uh, but, can also have to do with um, pain, suffering, and the transformation from that. No, that's not right. We're not ready for that. Here we are. Okay, the solar eclipse. Oh, sorry about that. I didn't change the slide title. It says August 23rd, which is not true at all. Uh, don't look at that. Look here. Okay, so the solar eclipse for September is September 21st at 3:54 p.m. on the East Coast. And it is at 29 degrees and 5 minutes of Virgo. And you can see we have a very beautiful grand trine. Uh, from the new moon solar eclipse to Pluto in Aquarius and Uranus in Gemini. And Pluto and Uranus in trine, starting this year, but really deepening into it next year, 2026. This is what gives me some personal hope about where we're going in this world, because these two planets were together in the mid 60s and are connected to all of the progressive values that were birthed at that time. Everything from organic farming to all of the rights of various marginalized groups, including women's rights. So there was just been such a long trajectory of those ideas coming into our modern culture, being fought about, and now is a time when I believe that we are supposed to be integrating these ideas into our civilization, into the core understanding of humanity. So, but Pluto in Aquarius, as we know, always does a deep dive into the shadow before there's any sense of the building of the new structure. And it's very different than Saturn. I think of Saturn as the remodeler, coming in and, remodeling a building, but the fundamental structure of the building is there. But we move a few walls, we change the foundation, we add a skylight. With Pluto, we come in and we trash the building. We have a big wrecking ball and we trash the building and dig out the foundation, look for poison gas, find the poison gas, expose it all. And then we've got a giant crater in the middle of our lot. And then we have to build a whole new thing from the ground up. So we are right now in the Pluto and Aquarius phase of trashing everything, the wrecking ball to the system, and it will be a while before we get into the new construction. Meanwhile, Uranus, planet of revolution, radical change, shock, surprises, awakening, liberation, authenticity. In the sign of Gemini, there's going to be so much more that we know. together, these two have so much to do with technology and the way that we're learning and the way that we're solving problems, and put that in a grand trine with Sun and Moon together in the integrative anaretic degree of Virgo. And we have the potential out of this solar eclipse to have some very fast, unexpected changes. And you see, this is looks like a little kite. It's called a kite. And the kite outlet is the Saturn Neptune, which is all about what we're building between Pisces values, Pisces ideals, and this is at our highest ability, and the grounding and stabilization in the structure of society. Right now, these two planets are operating as a lot of confusion, overwhelm, lies, and manipulation, and the structures that have always had the power holding on to their power as hard as they can. But I do believe in my own Jupiter hopeful way that we will get to the point in the next couple of years where we start to see more of the needed compassion and the building of new structures that are pioneering and take courage and bravery to make such important changes in the way that we live our lives. We can see here that Jupiter in Cancer is still, lightly in a trine to the North Node, sextile to the South Node. We know that Venus has moved into the sign of Virgo. So relationship, as I'd said earlier, getting much more into service and skillfulness, moving toward the South Node. So discernment about relationship, I think, is something that will be strong for everybody in the last half of September. See. Mercury in Libra is conjunct this solar eclipse, adding emphasis to my feeling that it has a lot to do with relationship and the communication to people we're in relationship with that brings about harmony and balance as we solve the problems. And you can also see that Mars here at 29 degrees and 39 minutes of Libra is in a very tight semi-sextile with the solar eclipse. So a semi-sextile is an inconjunct. It's a little like a quincunx. It's like those two energies are operating very differently. And yet, what it's likely to embody for us is that the Mars energy activates movement, activates starting things, initiating things. And in Libra, we could see some level of mediation, negotiations, harmony, and balance to solve some problems that are being shown by the Pluto in Aquarius energy. So this Mars is activated and connected to that solar eclipse. And we could even say that Venus, it's also a pretty strong semi-sextile. So Venus and Mars, two significant relationship planets, Moon, very much about unconditional love and nurturing, Sun making choices, Mercury thinking about things and communicating, Jupiter saying we believe in love, nurturing, and healing. All connected pretty strongly with this solar eclipse. So there you have it. And I wonder how this is affecting you in your own personal charts, because that's where it gets real, is when you think about what it is activating, what's going on in your life, and the choices that you can now make, knowing that these energies are working with you. And remember, eclipses happen twice a year in eclipse season. So the next eclipse season is going to be around March next year. And sometimes things are activated or ideas come to us in an eclipse, but we don't actually fully manifest it until 6 months later when we have matching eclipses. So in the spring, the solar eclipses will be in Pisces and the lunar eclipse will be in Virgo, most likely. I haven't checked it specifically, but that's, we're in the middle of the Virgo Pisces eclipse time. So probably that's where we are with them. And what else? If you're here in person, we'll have an opportunity to look at a couple of charts. And I wish you a beautiful September. Um, Nothing too new on my schedule except that the classes are starting on September 13th. The intuition that's really focused on healing and manifesting, really working with energy, and the relationship astrology class is beginning then too. And I'm also super excited about doing a Saturn return group. A couple of years ago, I did Saturn return in Pisces. A whole lot of people go through several group meetings to work with what Saturn return in the sign of Pisces meant for them. If you have Saturn in the sign of Aries, this upcoming group that starts toward the end of September and has 3 meetings over 3 months will be absolutely for you to figure out what it is your Saturn is all about and what this review and restructuring of your life is at this point. So all that is on the website.